Welcome back, Eurosatory, to another interview with some more fascinating insights on the way. Right now I have with me Tommy GUSTAFSSON Rask, who is CEO of BAE Hägglunds, the Swedish arm of BAE. Tommy, good morning. Thank you for joining me. How are you?
Thanks, good. Busy show.
It certainly is, isn't it? Everybody seems to think that this year, which is a great sign.
Yeah, I think it has grown from 2 years ago. It's a lot of more people and a lot of interest.
Well, a lot has happened, right? So, I mean, the war in Ukraine, of course, and the COVID pandemic are all very much recent memory. How have those two events impacted your supply chains as a company?
I would say that the supply chain is our biggest challenge. We're medically out of COVID, but the effects are still there. We see increased lead times, increased prices, and also that the effect of the war with sanctions. So I think, I'd say that just in time is dead. You need to plan differently, you need to take more time, you need to work more proactively in the supply chain to be able to manage the supply chain. So I think it's a big change that happened due to COVID and the effect of the war.
Absolutely. I mean, just-in-time delivery and that kind of thing is a cornerstone of a lot of modern manufacturing. So a move away from that would be huge.
Yeah, you need to plan more, you need to have more people working in the supply chain, be more proactively in the supply chain, you need to have alternative suppliers in certain things, and you need to build a bit more stock.
So I suppose from there it would be good to talk about the CV90 and the BvS10 in particular, because they've been very successful recently. Obviously the CV90 has been well received by the Ukrainian armed forces, and there's the upgrade for the Netherlands underway as well. How have you adapted your production capacity to make sure that you can actually meet those delivery demands with the challenges that you've already mentioned to the supply chains, but also orders at almost an all-time high?
Yeah, we have an enormous order book. We have more than 6 billion euros in order book. We have like 450 CV90s, more than 700 BVs on order book. We had an planned investment. We have invested more than 200 million euros so far. In the coming 3 years, we will invest another 300 million euros into our facility. The advantage we have is that we have an industrial cooperation set up. So we typically built parts of mainly the CV90 in country, so that helps me to grow. And the growth is probably 6 times of where we were. So we came from a turnover of roughly 250 million euros. And we're going to be 1.5 billion in the coming years. So it's an enormous growth we're doing, and we have a good setup with industrial cooperation and have partners in countries that helps us delivering this growth.
Okay, that's really interesting, and the growth especially is great to see and hear. So with those fragilities within the supply chain that you've already mentioned, what steps are needed, perhaps at a individual company level, but maybe as Europe as a whole or the West as a whole, to guarantee our supply chains?
I think we need to realize that we're stretching the capacity all over Europe of being able to deliver, because we're coming from a situation where we first have to support Ukraine, then secondly to rebuild and resupply what we have gifted to Ukraine, and then thirdly that we have had generally a too low stock because we have consumed the stock in the every piece we were in, and I think those combination of those three are stretching the capacity of all over Europe. So I think using capacity that is there, but also I think we're going to come to a position where we can't, maybe not, I think generally we can serve the customers, but maybe not in the time that the customer are expecting. Talked to one general and he said, Tommy, earlier on we had a lot of time and no money. No, we have no time and a lot of money. So it's work that. Also I think from a supplier point of view, very important to stress the fact that if you come with your requirements and we have something that maybe in other nations and let's say do joint procurements, that we can sell and do more of the same. That reduces time. We have a good example where Sweden is in lead for a BVS 10 procurement, where UK and Germany is joining, and they are basically having the same base vehicle produced. Then you add on your specifics, but the base vehicle are the same for all three nations.
Yeah, my day job you were asking earlier is partly an armored vehicles analyst, so I know that things get a bit tricky when you start changing the layout of the drive system and that sort of thing to meet your requirements. So I think that's a really strong point. And something connected to this as well, though, is the challenge of hiring the appropriate staff. And is that something that you have encountered at BAE Hägglunds, or do you think that it is unique to defense?
Yeah, we have encountered it. We have had a growth from roughly the last 3 years from 800 employees, and we were last week 2,075. So it's enormous growth we have had. And touch wood, it has gone extremely well. I think there are still challenges in certain competence areas like cyber engineering, cyber security. We have had some challenges in the blue collar side with welders and CNC operators, but we did a number of years of fairly high automation, so we robot welding like 90%, so there are things you can do, but it has been a challenge, but we have succeeded. But then, as I said earlier, the use of partners earlier on, industrial cooperation was a bit of a burden, but I think now it's a strength for us that because I would never be able to grow that quick just in my facilities. I would never get maybe up to 4,000 employees if I should deliver the volume. So using your network of partners is essential for our growth.
Yeah, that's fascinating, and that's been mentioned a few times, that the importance of partnerships, be it between countries or between companies, to meet the needs that we have. So do you feel that this is this problem of scale and upscaling production, whether it be staff or supply chains, is that a problem for all of Europe, and can it be addressed in the time that you mentioned?
Yeah, I think it's all over Europe. And I think, as we have been talking about, I think cooperation is an important sense that you're preparing to give and take in your specification, that you maybe can find a 90-95% solution on your requirements and you can get it in time. If you tend to stick to your requirements, you maybe get the last end up in the queue and say, okay, you will get your vehicles in 2032. So I think those with the cooperation, being able to trade, will help that, and then I think we can serve the most part of it. But it's a general problem there, and then that we use the capacity in the right way.
And to be specific, in a specific part of the supply chain, we know that COVID led to severe delays in the automobile industry receiving microchips. Was there a similar impact on defense, and how can that be addressed in the future?
Yes, it was. I would say that we had a supply chain. What happened in the COVID was that suppliers, what did we do? We moved home, work from home. We needed screens, home electronics, and some suppliers, they really switched to serve others. We managed it fairly well because we talk about 500 or 1,000. Car industry talking 10,000, 50,000. So I think we managed through. The problem we have in some sense is that we have military specified circuits that has to be fully controlled. We found workarounds with buying on the spot market, but then testing each circuit that they fulfill the spec. And so we found workarounds. I think the initiatives that happen in Europe of building capability is good for us, that we have a source of supply within Europe, and especially if you look at the risk that you always see when you come very low down in the supply chain is to get a Chinese component, if we put it very straight. And I think that's something that will help us for the future with that investment that's ongoing.
Yeah, that was going to be my very next question, actually, and you've addressed both parts of it, because that definitely is a concern, because there's so much complexity to a supply chain now, right? It can be really difficult for an integrator or a prime at the top to know exactly everything that's going on throughout the supply chain. And is that, are you getting feedback from the government customers that that's a concern that you should be looking into?
Yes, for sure, and it's requirements in contracts, so it's clearly written. The advantage I have being a part of the greater BAE system is that BAE system buys a lot of electronics and also have US requirements on counterfeit components. So we have been able to leverage a lot of what is done within BAE system to secure that we are delivering proper electronics that fulfills the requirements.
Well, Tommy, thank you so much for that look into supply chains and the complexity of them. I've actually learnt a lot there as well. So thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a great show.
Yeah, I will, for sure. But just in time is dead. Now we need to work differently. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's a great note to end on. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.